Good afternoon. My name is Jim Introne. I'm the Governor's Deputy Secretary for Healthcare. It's great to be here at the NYU Langone Medical Center. I'd like to acknowledge the President of John Sexton, the President of the University, and Martin Lipton, Chair of the Board, and of course, Bob Grossman, CEO. Neighborhoods here in Manhattan, particularly in Midtown and downtown, were devastated by Hurricane Sandy. And you at NYU Medical Center know this better than anyone else. At the height of the storm, the power went out, forcing an unexpected evacuation of the hospital. With stormwater surging, sewers overflowing, pouring rain, and hurricane-force winds, the nurses, doctors, and staff here at NYU Medical Center showed heroic courage, helping the nearly 300 patients here at the hospital, including 20 newborn babies and dozens of people in intensive care, to evacuate and reach safety. In the days that followed, the selfless actions of the personnel here at NYU Medical Center and the first responders who assisted with the evacuation came to symbolize the sacrifice and bravery of all New York's heroes who put their lives on the line during Hurricane Sandy. The flooding caused untold damage here at NYU and in surrounding areas. And although in many areas life is getting back to normal, the cost of cleaning up the storm's aftermath took a huge hit on the institution's budget. NYU Medical Center has used and is using all of its resources to recover and rebuild after Hurricane Sandy, so that they can continue to provide the essential services they offer to their patients and community. They need help from the federal government. We're here today to announce that NYU Langone Medical Center will receive $114 million in reimbursement funding to help cover the costs associated with preparations in advance of the storm, evacuations, removal of water, and emergency repairs in the immediate wake of the storm. This is a part of the first federal reimbursement money that has been released to the state after Hurricane Sandy to help with storm recovery. Even in times of crisis, bureaucracy and red tape can often delay critical support. Governor Cuomo has directed his team to cut through the red tape and get the necessary aid to New Yorkers as soon as possible. And that's exactly what happened here. And I'd like to introduce Dr. Grossman, CEO and Dean of NYU Langone Medical School.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim, and thank you, Governor Cuomo, for coming here today with this wonderful news. It is great to have both of you here at NYU Langone, and we could not be more happy with this great announcement. From before Hurricane Sandy hit, at the storm's height and in its aftermath, the governor has been on the ground in affected communities, listening to residents, seeing the damage firsthand, and ensuring that every available resource is deployed to help with recovery and rebuilding. New York State cannot recover alone, and that's why we are so thankful to Governor Cuomo for being on the front line, pressing the needs to Congress that it's time for the nation to step up and help us. And we have done that with other states, working closely with the state's representatives in Congress on both sides of the aisle, especially the extraordinary efforts of Senator Chuck Schumer, Kristen Gillibrand, Representatives King and Lowy. He has been leading the charge in the fight for federal aid. We are also deeply grateful to the staff of the State Department of Health and Homeland Security, who are coordinating with constantly as we work towards a timely and safe reopening of our facilities. Time and again, the governor has fought and delivered, and he has done so again today. The medical center was hit extraordinarily hard by the storm, and as we said today, the hurricane truly showed who New Yorkers' heroes really are. With our great staff here and our city and state first responders risking all to help bring down 324 patients to safety. The $114 million announcement today will be a big shot in the arm for the medical center and will help us reopen on time and get back to serving the many New Yorkers who come through here on a daily basis. Time and again, Governor Cuomo has fought for us and delivered, and he has done so yet again today. But as he knows, our needs don't stop today. We need to continue to pressure Congress to approve the President's request to provide for federal aid, and to New York Congress needs, and the Congress needs to act now. Thank you, Governor, and thank you for joining us here today. I'm now pleased to introduce our great Governor, Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you very much, Dr. Grossman. To Chairman Lipton and President Sexton, pleasure to be with you once again. To Deputy Secretary Jim Mintrone, who's been doing fantastic work running the healthcare system of this state through a very difficult period. It's a pleasure to be with him, and Commissioner Jerry Hauer, who's the Commissioner in charge of all emergency services, who's, I believe, the best person in this country in emergency services, and we were lucky to have him at the helm. We're here today for two main points. First, to applaud the people of this great institution for their courage and for their competence in dealing with the emergency handed to us by the storm Sandy, Hurricane Sandy. I was here that night, and I saw the East River blending into 2nd Avenue. And literally, we came down 34th Street to see how bad the river was on the east side. And we knew right away the damage that was going to be done in this great institution. We then went to the west side and saw the Hudson coming up and making Manhattan literally thinner between the Hudson River coming from the west and the East River coming from the east. And it was a frightening occasion. It was frightening for me personally. And what the situation presented here, where you had people in a hospital, it's almost unimaginable. You know, what do you do with a hospital full of people in the middle of a storm when you lose power? No one could prepare you for it. There was no course. There was no manual to turn to. As great as the NYU facilities, nobody could teach you for this situation. And it became a question of leadership. It became a question of will, of desire, and cooperation. And the people of this facility came together and did a job better than anyone could have predicted. I don't know that you could have done it if you had spent weeks preparing yourself. And that is truly a testament to every man and woman who worked so hard to save people's lives, literally, because I believe you did. I believe you saved people's lives that night. And I truly applaud you, and every New Yorker applauds you, because they were all with you that night, watching what was going on and watching your heroism and praying for you. And we're glad it turned out the way it did. Second point is this. This situation of the storm presents phases. Our first phase was the emergency response, and people just doing what had to be done at the time because that's who they were and that's where they were. We then went into a phase of short-term reconstruction stabilization, getting the lights back on, getting the water running, getting the municipal services working once again, getting the trains running on time, literally, getting the traffic moving, so the city and the state could function. And that was phase two. Phase three now is a long-term reconstruction project. And you see it in this facility. It will start to come online in the short term, but you have months and months and months of work that will be done here. You have mitigation, you have re-engineering that will be done here. You have all sorts of work that we haven't even anticipated yet. And this is obviously a large structure, but you have hundreds of thousands of homeowners who will be going through the same process, rebuilding their homes over months. You have small business owners who will be rebuilding small businesses for months. You have governments that will be rebuilding government facilities, roads, bridges. We have work to do on the damage done to the MTA and the tunnels and the bridges there. So will be months and months of reconstruction. And the question becomes one of practicality and one of finance. The economic damage that has been done to this state and this region would be in excess of $70, $80 billion. They haven't even fully calculated it yet. But we know that there's going to be a significant financial cost to the reconstruction of the storm. And we also know it will exceed the resources of the individual homeowners and individual institutions, and it will also exceed the resources of the city government and the state government. So we have gone to the federal government, and we have said we need financial help. Now, this is not a unique situation. As a matter of fact, it's a typical situation. We have a long history of having states or regions in this country that go through natural disasters. We have hurricanes, we have floods. When I was in the federal government for 8 years, I was at the department HUD that administers these programs. I was involved in the North Ridge earthquake in California, Midwest floods, Hurricane Andrew in Florida. So there's a series and a history of natural disasters in states and regions that are reimbursed by the federal government. Why? Because it would add insult to injury to say to a region that had just suffered a tremendous loss, you now have to finance the loss yourself, right? Your economy is down, you're hurt, you now have to pay for the reconstruction. That would actually slow that region from recovery. That would be bad for that region, it would be bad for the nation. So the nation intelligently said, the federal government will fund the reconstruction. They call it a supplemental appropriation, meaning the Congress will appropriate an additional fund supplementing the normal budget. And that's what we have asked for. We've asked for a $60 billion supplemental appropriation between New York and New Jersey primarily. New York is more than 50%, so it's about $32 billion to the state of New York. To tell you how much $32 billion is, it's all the money in the world. The state could never afford $32 billion. It's about a third of the entire budget of the state, period, for everything we pay for, education, debt service, et cetera. If we had to finance the $32 billion, it would be an astronomical tax increase that would truly damage this state for years to come. I've worked for 2 years not only to hold the line on taxes, but to cut taxes because I believe that's in the best economic interest of the state. I'm not going to do a tax increase of $32 billion because it would be truly counterproductive. And the right thing is for the federal government to help with that assistance. And we are in the midst of that process now. The White House has presented the Senate and the House with a bill. They are considering it. We are urging them to act quickly before the end of the year because we need to know what the plan is. We need to know the finances. We need to be able to say to NYU, today you received $114 million. There'll be another blank, there'll be another blank, and it'll come on this date so you can now plan and you can build. And we need to do it with NYU and with homeowners and local governments all across the state. So we need the action to be concluded quickly so we have finality and we can plan. And we need the funding. And the point is to say to the Congress, don't play politics with this issue. Washington, I know gridlock has almost become the norm. It is abnormal. It is non-functioning. It is non-performance of the service that the people sent the representatives to Washington to accomplish, which is to make the government work for the people. We need it passed. We need it desperately. And I would say to the elected officials in Washington, follow the instinct of the people. And as you know, the instinct of the American people, in a situation like this, their first instinct was to be helpful and to come and to volunteer. I can't tell you how many people who I ran into who would just show up and who was from Texas and who was from the Midwest and who just got in their car and saw this on TV and drove to New York because they wanted to be of help, because that was their instinct. We're all one country. We're Americans. You have one group of people that need help and need assistance. We're there. That's the beauty of the American spirit. Let Washington remember that. The same instinct that brought volunteers to come and give selflessly, we need this Washington help. We need it now so we can get a great institution like this back up and running, treating people, creating jobs, aiding the economy, doing the research in a facility like this that literally will save lives and lives for years to come. With that, I want to thank once again the team at NYU, not just for their great work, but also for coming in on a Sunday and for accommodating us today. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks everybody for coming. This is part of a continuing effort to get this healthcare institution back on its feet, and I'm sure we're going to see great things in the next couple of months. Thank you all.